Hello YouTube, welcome back for another video, my first of 2021. Today marks the first day of lockdown number 3 in England, so I thought to cheer myself and everyone else up, we would tackle a really beautiful piece of music today. One of the most famous written for the cello, which of course is Saint-Saëns' Swan from the Carnival of the Animals. Currently on the ABRSM grade 7 syllabus. It used to be a grade 6 piece and has now been moved up to grade 7 for some reason. As always in these videos, I'm going to be zooming in on two particular aspects that are very important in really conveying the character of the piece. And those will be, first of all, shifting, and to be more precise, the quality of the movement that we need. What do I mean by that is how do we need to move our arm during the shift in order to really portray this very elegant animal. So that will be the first topic we'll delve into. And the second one, I want to talk with you about sound color. How do we create different colors? What do we need to do in either hand, but primarily in the bow, to really give us the tools to be expressive? So those are the two main focal points of this video. When we think about shifting, very often our primary concern is how to get from point A to point B cleanly, without any accidents ideally, right? What we don't tend to spend usually enough time on is to actually think about the shifting movement itself. What should it feel like? How fast? How quickly or how slowly should we be shifting? Does the speed at which our arm is opening or closing for the shift, does that actually match the music? Now, these questions are nowhere more relevant than in this particular piece. Because right at the very start, in the very first bar when we come in after the 1-bar piano introduction, we have got 2 shifts right away. One of them, quite a long distance one. What am I after here? I'm after a long, seamless, elegant line that really, well, portrays, mirrors how the animal, how the swan moves. And that of course means I can't have any movement in either one of my hands, which is, especially in the left hand when it's shifting, that is in any way jagged, right? So my shifting speed here is matching the music, so I'm shifting slowly, so I don't sort of twitch and pull my arm back. I shift really slowly, both down as well as up. Now, if speed of the shift is not something you're yet routinely used to thinking about, this is something you will probably have to take out of context a little bit. And actually you'll really have to challenge yourself to shift slowly, because most of the time we tend to shift far too quickly and far too hectically. So when I talk about quality of movement, what do I mean in terms of sensation? Because you know, all these things go together. When it feels really good and really smooth, that's usually what it will sound like as well, right? So you want to feel, well, when it comes down to it, shift is nothing other than a change of angle here between the upper and the lower arm, right? So you have that movement. What you want to feel is that it opens and closes really, really smoothly. So just practice that on any, you can really do it in all finger combinations, all position combinations. Just challenge yourself. How slowly can I shift? Yeah, so and it might take you quite a bit of practice before you can really sort of get into that, and not just, a lot of the time when we shift, we sort of just let's just get it over with as quickly as possible. Yeah, so I want you to actually start to enjoy the process of the shift. What should you be looking out for in terms of sensation under your fingers? When you shift, first of all, you want to release the finger pressure from the string a little bit, yeah, because otherwise you get this sort of meow, yeah, which you don't want. So stop pressing on the string, don't disconnect, yeah, so you always want to feel the string under your finger. So really try to shift very, very slowly and feel as you travel up or down, feel the sensation of the string on your fingertip here, on your skin. Just get used to that. The entire, really, you want to get to a point where you enjoy the entire journey. Yeah, so now pull slowly and back up. And again, slowly. Yeah, so that is really, if you're working on this piece, just set some time aside every single day to just practice slow shifting, preferably without stopping the vibrato, just smooth opening of the arm and closing. Yeah, so really to the point where these movements are really, really, really soft and connected. As soon as you feel anything that feels in any way sort of jerky, get right in there, yeah? Because then you don't have a swan anymore, then you've got a sort of slightly nervous duck, and we don't want that. Yeah, so let's take a look at a few of the sort of, well, how can I say, the sort of critical shifts in this piece, and the ones which people tend to be nervous about, yeah? So the very first one is right at the beginning, we've spoken about it, and there's one more thing that's really important. You can only shift slowly and take your time if you've got enough bow left, yeah? And most shifts that go wrong, they don't actually go wrong of anything that the left hand does, they go wrong because we don't have any bow left. Yeah, so when you look at my bow distribution here, so I need to really save on these first two notes because I've got a shift going down to the B, and every shift costs bow. Yeah, that's a general rule. Every shift costs bow. And I need to have yet again more bow to shift back up to the E. So take a look. So I save, really save. Now I have bow to B and enough bow to get me back up to the E. So that's really important. Whenever you've got a shift, make sure you've got enough bow to accommodate it. Yeah? So the next shift, which I think we might want to look at, is at the end of the second phrase. Up to that B, right? And so we're now going into fixed position here. And of course we have to cross sort of what I call the hump here, yeah? And now if I do that very slowly, you can see what happens here. So my arm comes forwards you see that it's completely clear of the cello, yeah, of the shoulder here. It's not here, yeah, because if your arm is here and you then push it up without actually having weight and balance on your finger, it will be like stepping onto a banana skin, really, yeah. So you see, I balance, I bring my arm up, and then just once you've done that, once you have aligned for the new position, your arm is in the right place, all you need to do is just unlock here, release, and there you are. Yeah. So the next one is at well, this phrase comes twice, second time in a different key. So we've got second time it goes higher, it goes to D, right? So there's a little bit more to do here. When you look at what happens on the last two notes, so you've got your G sharp, again, arm needs to be up, second finger, A sharp, you see my thumb is coming up. That needs to be done, the bringing up of the thumb has to be done before you release for the shift, yeah? Because again, if you try to do the two things at the same time, it will unsettle your balance, yeah? So the next one, we're going right on from, so we've ended up up here. Now we've got to get back down as well, and I tend to find anecdotally that actually downward shifts tend to go wrong more often than upward shifts, which is, I think, partly because we are not as scared going down. We take our eye a little bit off the ball, and also, especially coming from some position back to the neck positions, we don't tend to prepare our arm sufficiently. So let's look at that. So the tricky one is now the B to D, and here is what needs to happen. Look at this point, my fourth finger, and I have a very, very short fourth finger. It's very, very far from the cello, but even if you have a normal fourth finger, it'll still be far from the cello. So before you shift, you consciously need to turn your arm to bring that finger back in, yeah? So, one more time. Turn your arm. And then you will have absolutely no problem with that shift. Yeah? So these tend to be sort of the main sticking points in terms of shifting, yeah? So really try to work through the piece and look at every single shift in there, and look at the speed, look at the quality of your movement. Is it nice and smooth? Does it feel good? Or is there anything jagged in there? Now let's tackle our second topic on the agenda today, and that is, as I promised earlier, sound color, and what do we need to do to create it. And I really always think that is really where the fun starts, yeah, because that's where the magic happens, and that's really, you know, when you know, we really start to express ourselves, yeah. And but in order to make conscious decisions about that, how we want it to sound, and really to be in control of that, we need to understand the sort of technical mechanism behind it, yeah? So there are, broadly speaking, in the right hand, 3 parameters that will determine what kind of sound, what sort of sound color we get. And that is, first of all, how much weight we relinquish into the string. So how much arm weight do we give? Do we really just relax one set of decisions we have to make. The next one is the speed of the bow. How quickly do I draw my bow across a string? Yeah, do I go very slowly? Do I go at much higher speed with much less resistance? You can already hear that depending on how I change that, I get different sounds. The last one, and this is a very important one, and I think one which we far too often leave to chance, and that is contact point. Yeah, where on the string is my bow? Am I near the fingerboard, or am I near the bridge, or somewhere in between? As a general rule, in my experience, I've very rarely have to remind anyone to not play quite as close to the bridge. Usually cellists, we always have a tendency to be far too near the fingerboard. Yeah, so these are 3 parameters. So arm weight, bow speed, contact point. So that's first of all what's happening in the right hand. That then we have to find, you know, the right vibrato speed and you know, a few other details in the left hand, but really very broadly speaking, you know, the foundation of the music is always made in the right hand. So this is really what we'll in the main be looking at. Yeah, so if we think about sort of different parts and different phrases of this piece, this one, we I think sort of the selection of sound color, it comes quite naturally, because usually the harmony, and when you're playing with a piano, you will really notice that the harmony really dictates how sort of relaxed or how involved it is. Yeah, so when we start, we obviously covered the beginning already in the first section, but what sort of sound do we start with? We sort of just, the piano gives us almost, it's almost like the water, it gives us this lovely sort of current, right, on which we are just floating. So we want the sound here which is, well, quite simple, yeah, which is without any resistance, and as you remember, because we have these shifts, we need to save the bow. So I would say select the contact point, sort of not too close to the fingerboard, sort of halfway in between, and quite slow, very slow and steady bow speed. Yeah, with nice continuous vibrato. Very important that the vibrato does not stop for every shift. Yeah, so just simple, just move the bow slow and steady. Now color changes. It's suddenly, you move to the A minor, it's much more involved, right? So you see how my bow suddenly on that A speeds up a little bit. Yeah, I'm using a little bit more weight. Yeah, so we land quite heavily on that A and we relax again to the C. So how do I do that? Do you see? And bring the bow speed back down. And you see, I also, as I go through that bow, I sort of very gradually change my contact point as well. Like that. I start nearer the bridge, go away. Slower bow speed until you come to a stop. Now, much more involved. So faster bow speed with weight. And here, you know, I'm really, in order to secure that bow speed, I need to be pulling very, very, very consciously with my right arm. So not just sort of on autopilot, but really, you know, upper arm followed by lower arm. And here again, look, on the B, I relax. So slow the bow down. And again, gradually change the contact point as well, right? So this is something you have to sort of experiment with, and you can really just do that initially on single notes and see what happens. Yeah, so you take a single note and okay, let's see what happens when we play with a steady bow. Let's see what happens if I increase the bow speed while I play. What happens when I change my contact point? What happens when I do the same with faster bow speed? Same bow speed, different contact point. You get the idea, yeah? How it works. Another really good phrase for that, I think, is later on in the piece when we get to recapitulation there. So just if you watch the bow carefully there, you see how much is going on here. So I start with that quite intense sound nearer the bridge, quite slow bow speed, heavier arm, left hand well vibrated here. Tip for the open string, an open A always has a habit of just blaring out if you let it, yeah? So whenever you have an open A in a phrase, just bring your bow speed right down on that note, and then, so, you know, much slower bow speed than the surrounding notes, and you won't give it that chance to stick out, yeah? So slow bow nearer the bridge. Going up to F sharp, so you see there are a couple of things happening. My bow speeds up, so I speed up to that F sharp, and as soon as I'm on the note, slow down. Now bring it back down, and now you're going towards F natural. Speed up the bow. The bridge, and look, I'm coming back to bring me back to the beginning of the piece, and so on, yeah? So that is really, in a nutshell, sort of the technique with how you control these different sounds. And, you know, once you are becoming a little bit more experienced in how to control that, then you can really start to make, you know, conscious decisions about how you want to play the piece. And it might be completely different to how I just did it, yeah? So there are endless possibilities, but those are the tools which enable you to make those choices. So I hope you have fun exploring that, and as always, I hope the video has been useful. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe to my channel, smash that like button, and I look forward to seeing you soon for another one.